infinite potential. I like the concept that I could even have an infinite potential. Now, let's see if I can find it. she, Aliza is a reverend, of course, a unity minister, quantum catalyst, and I'd like to know more about that in Coffee Talk. And then a modern day alchemist, again, more for Coffee Talk, who loves leading people beyond what they believe is possible. And I like that idea. Let's stretch a little. She's a founder of the Sacred Playground. That's a portal of frequencies, activations, and transmissions, allowing you to become all you are here to be. So, Aliza, with that simple introduction, tell us what you have.
Thank you. I'd like to start this morning, even though we just had a beautiful opening prayer, I'd like to start with a moment of meditation. So again, close that outer eye so we can see more clearly. I also like that line, Dennis. Thank you. And take a breath in. And become aware of that breath that moves through you. Are you the breather or are you breathed? Become aware of that life flow that is so much greater than each of us. And notice how this flow of life, being greater than us, is greater than our challenges, greater than our personalities, greater than our egos, greater than our preferences. And as we lean into that life flowing through us, we actually gain access to the infinite. It is not separate from us, but within us. So for the next few minutes, I invite you to let go of all your shoulds, all your woulds, the limits, the old storylines, and just for now, imagine what life would be like if it weren't something to figure out or navigate through, but something that we are consciously co-creating. Just lean into that. Feel it for a moment. Take another breath in and know that this is only the beginning. And so we pray and we affirm in the infinite. And so it is. And so we let it be. And so we begin. So thank you for having me again. It's always great to see you. I didn't realize that we were live in person, although as we're talking about that, I actually kind of remember hearing that happens sometimes, and maybe what's happening today. But I want to invite us. I want to invite you to go beyond what you believe is possible. I want to invite you to acknowledge and accept with such gratitude all that is. And know that all that is simply the tip of the iceberg of what is possible. And what might that look like for you? And what might that look like for us? So as we breathe into the felt experience of life moving through us, we always used to say, in God, we live and move and have our being. But the second part of that statement is, and through us, God's source spirit, the energy of the universe, lives and moves and has expression through us. Through us. It is a both and. Now, I've been working with a particular ministry for a while now. And so we've been sort of working on, working on, working on, reminding ourselves that it's not God. When we talk about God, right, when we use the word God, it's not the anthropomorphic guy in the sky who looks down and goes, good news, bad news, good news. It's not that. Now, I know you all know that, but I also want you to lean into the places, perhaps, that we still think of something like God as a being. God is the energy, the foundation, the very it's like not even the building blocks, it's below the building blocks of all that is. And so when we can reframe any idea that we have of God into this, oh, it's this, then we can start to reframe the things that happen around us. So I love the story of the little kindergartner who was the kindergarten teacher asked her class to draw a picture. And she was going around and she asked little Susie, she said, what are you drawing? She says, I'm drawing God. And the teacher says, well, how can you draw God? Nobody knows what God looks like. And Susie says, with all the confidence of a 5-year-old, well, they will when I'm done. You've probably heard that many times, but it's one of my favorites. So if we were to allow any limiting thought that we have, whether it's about God or source or spirit or our own lives or our own situations, if we were to simply lay down the limiting beliefs, lay down the old storylines, what might we discover? What might we discover if we could imagine that life isn't something to get through, to prove, to navigate, but rather to consciously co-create? These are our basic unity principles, but we're taking them to, I think, new layers as a movement, as a culture, as a world. Now, this week was a really weird week for those of us in the United States. I think most of us are stateside in this particular. There was just some really weird stuff that goes on. And, this week kind of shook me a little bit, not any one particular thing, but I think what's happening is there's so much happening that our foundation is shifting. And there's so much happening that the only thing I know is I don't know. Right? The only thing I know is I don't know all of it. I don't know what is a fact and what is propaganda. I don't know what happened. I don't know why it happened. I don't know who happened. I don't know. Now, when I was much younger in my Unity days, that statement, I don't know, so angsted me. But now I find peace in it, because when I can go into all I know is I don't know, I can open my mind to see something different. I can open my mind to look with new eyes. I can open my mind in this place that instead of being contractive is expansive. And instead of being diminished by the world, I can become empowered in it. Not empowered over anybody else. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about finding that soul essence and embodying that essence of your soul that is ever evolving, ever expanding, ever becoming, because we're not done until we're done, if you know what I mean. And so in this time on this planet, I feel like I was doing some writing this morning. I feel like I've been saying this for a long time, maybe decades actually, but I feel like our world is at a tipping point. And the tipping point can either go one of two ways. It's not clear yet. Like if it goes one way, we go further into separation, further into hate, further into violence, further into right, wrong, further into objectifying and dehumanizing people who don't see what we see, who don't believe what we believe. Or, and this is our work, we can tip the other direction, which moves us into what I've been calling new humanity for a handful of years. That is the foundation, or that has as its foundation oneness. And in that oneness, what we experience is love as the very fabric of our being, kindness, compassion, sufficiency, equality, inclusivity, all of those words that we as a new thought movement stand for. But it's time for us to be our own tip. And there's so much in the world that is, I think, created to be divisive, that even in our new thought movement, there are, and maybe in this room, and certainly in my very circle of friends, those of us who stand so clearly for oneness in all people, and love and kindness and compassion for all people, but then we get righteous in it. And as soon as we get righteous in it, we have moved back into separation. We get righteous in saying they're wrong, we're right. But as soon as we do that, can you feel it? We are furthering the separation. And so what I really wanted to talk about today was, how do we overcome that in order to live more expansive, empowered lives? Well, the first thing to know is life is not a checklist. It's not about the checklist. Pay the bills, buy the house, get married, have the kids, grow the kids up, get retired, do the travel. It's not the checklist. That's not what it's about. Like, what we do is absolutely what we do, but that's not why we're here to do those things. I believe that we're here to make manifest the glory of God. I believe that many of us sitting in this very room are here to be the light, to be the tipping point, to stand for that which we know to be true. That our God is an energy, that every person is created in the image and likeness of God, that every person has that divinity within them. I'm not talking about their behavior or their worldview or their actions. I'm not talking about that, because that's where we go sideways, right? Because we want to condone or condemn, or we get all mixed up in that. But what if none of that is really any of our business? Jesus said, why do you worry about the speck in somebody else's eye when you have a log in your own eye? And I think as a new thought movement, we need to look at the speck in our own eye. We need to take care of our own energy field so that we can be clear and clean and expanded and empowered in ways that also cause others to be expansive and empowered. So the question really is, what if you allowed yourself to live more expansively? Now, I know some of you have really amazing, expansive lives. That's awesome. But what if you allowed yourself, in your mind, in your heart, in your soul, in your very being, to live more expansively in and as spirit? What if you allowed yourself to live in the realm of infinite possibilities? Does that excite you? Does that expand you? Does that like light a fire in you? And now, if it does, what are you going to do with it? So empowered living doesn't mean we don't have challenges, right? It doesn't mean that we don't have our human experience. It doesn't mean that we don't have our own judgments and our own defenses and our own ways of, however we be. It doesn't mean that we walk on water all the time, but it does mean that we have our humanity and we remember our divinity. We have our humanity. We allow and accept all of our human experience, and we know there's something more. Because isn't the very definition of our divinity is more than we know, right? Isn't the very definition of infinite possibilities more than we know? So my work in the world is opening doorways so that people can move beyond what they believe is possible in their thought, in their mind, in their emotions, in their being, in their doing, in all of life. And so one of the ways that we can practice living more expansively is to notice what's between the stimulus and the response. So by that, I mean, when something hits you, I don't mean physically, right? When something hits you, a piece of news, a Facebook feed, a diagnosis, a bump in the road, anything, when something like grabs your attention, what is your first response? And can you create a pause before you respond? Can you create a pause, even just a split second before you react? That's where the power of our spiritual practices come. So we had Rob had a health thing this weekend, or actually it's been a few weeks ago now, but it was one of those moments where you go, whoa, what is happening? And he's fine. He's fine. It was a moment, and that's awesome. And that was very, very interesting, very curious. But it's in those moments, it's like, what do you do with that? It's like, oh, become curious. What's happening? Before I panic, right? Before I panic, can I take a breath? I can panic in a minute if I want to, but before I panic, can I take a breath? Can you see how that might be helpful? Before I react, can I take a breath? Before I react to anything, and we're so reactive, most of us, I'll speak for myself. As humanity, I find that we're so reactive because, the Facebook scrolls, if they're Facebook people, or the news channel, or whatever, the weather, or the, whatever's going on. And we're like, bah, 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 bah. Tell me you do that too. But if you can feel that initial and then pause and stretch the space between the stimulus and the response, stretch the space, create more space to see what else is there. What else is there? Can you feel how that can expand the moment? I'm finding that time is so fluid. Some days are like a year long and some weeks are like an hour. It's so fluid right now. And I think that's part of our tipping point, because if we do tip into oneness, some of the things that shift and change are structures. Like time is a structure, time calendar even is a structure. It helps us to come together, right, in a lot of ways, but it's not a real thing. It's a structure. And so when you can lean into the presence of the present moment, it becomes very expansive. So how about another example? There was it was part of a miscommunication. And it was, and again, it sorted itself out really fine, but the question came out true. That's not true. We might have missed a bit in that moment, but when we lean into and become curious, it's like, what's behind that question? What's behind that apparent attack? And the long story, very short, is we put out a survey, and the first question was a toggle. So if you answered one way, you got these questions. If you answered this way, got this questions. And so the person who was feeling reactive well, like, you didn't include the most important question. I said, yeah, I actually did. It's over here, but we didn't have that information. So it's like there's always more. There's always more. Two kind of key phrases that I like to use that I will just gift to you, right? Put these in your pocket, receive them as a gift. The first one is simply the statement, there must be a good reason for that. There must be a good reason for that. And the second is, I've been saying it, all I know is I don't know the whole picture. Kind of goes hand in hand. There's more to know. There's more to know before I react. There's more to know before I judge. There's more to know before I go defensive or blaming or being guilty or whatever it is. So that power of really starting with accepting your human response, like don't judge your own human response, but don't give it too much credence. That sounds a little backwards, doesn't it? Like our human response is from our humanity. But where we're leaning into this expansive, empowered life is allowing more divinity in us and through us and as us. And so if we have a reaction that says, that is so wrong, and we notice it and we go, there must be a good reason. There must be something I don't know, then I can create the space to become curious, to choose from my divinity rather than reacting from my humanity. Now I talk about it like it's separate parts of ourselves, but it's this ever flowing flow, right? It's like sometimes we're much more in our humanity, sometimes we're much more in our divinity, and our intention is to be more consciously aware of our divinity, which means that we're also more consciously aware of the human state, but also the potential for the divinity in other people. So I came to this question because Rob and I have been talking a lot about the events of the week, and I'm talking about the school shooting and the other shooting and just why it impacts people, and really not even so much those two things, but the what's the word I want to say, like the aftershocks of them, like what has been awakened in people, and all of the outpouring of stuff. Even my friends in Europe are posting things. I'm like, wow, I don't see it that way. That's really curious. The only thing we know is everybody has their own worldview. Everybody has their own belief system. And here's a thought for you. Just try it on, see if it resonates. And if it really makes you like go like, ah, it might be for you. Just because I believe what I believe doesn't mean anybody else has to. Wait, what? But why do we believe what we believe? And why do some people believe something so completely different than us? What makes us right? Especially when we're judging that they think they're right and they're obviously so wrong. Do you see this twisted up mess that we kind of go into? Notice when you're twisted up in a knot. Notice when you are righteous, not divine righteousness, right? But human righteousness, and feel how crunchy that gets, right? For me, I feel like I get jagged edges, right? When I'm really crunchy, I'm like, ooh, I'm jagged. I'm sharper. I'm harder. That's not who I choose to be. But then lean in. Lean in. Don't push it away. Lean in and look for that infinite. Look for that expansive, empowered place, what would it be? How would you respond if you were more expansive and empowered? Expansive and empowered is aligned with spirit. Expansive and empowered is integrated in the truth we know to be, but truth, spiritual truth, not human truth. So there's three really keys, if you will. First is alignment. Which energy do I want to carry? Contracted, jagged, sharp, expansive, curious, open. Where's my alignment? What alignment do I want to carry? Choose conscious moments. Pause, 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 pause. One of the bodies of work that I studied, and it was actually about communication, and the assignment was to wait 30 seconds before you say anything. 30 seconds is a really, really long time when you still want to say something. So maybe not 30, maybe, I mean, go for it if you can, but even 10, like, it's coming out. No, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it. Do I really want to say that? Do I really want to say it that way? Maybe, maybe not. And then many rituals, the things we know to do, the gratitude, the visualizations, the prayer, even again for 60 seconds. The breathing, the feel your feet on the ground, even again for 60 seconds or 30 seconds. And when you do that, when you take that time, you can discover this shimmering field that is greater than us. That is the empowered, expansive field of spirit. And in that empowered, expansive field of spirit, it's the invitation. Feel it as an invitation. Feel it as an invitation to live more expansive. Feel it as an invitation to become more empowered. And receive an invitation, a personal invitation from me, because this is so important to me. I've got something coming up really soon, and it just happens to be the timing of this. It's a free, completely free, no obligation webinar. It's entitled Living Empowered, the Shift You've Been Waiting For. And it's on the 24th of September, and I will post the link in the thing. I would love to have you join me. Again, it's completely free. It's no obligation, but we're going to, and that even one shift, a thought, a breath, a conscious choice can ripple through everything. It only takes that one conscious shift to expand, to empower, to live the expansive, empowered life. And so I invite you to just take one more breath and breathe that expansion into your chest, into your arms, breathe it into your mind, breathe it into your heart. And imagine this energy, which is filled with love and kindness and compassion. This energy of expansion, imagine it moving through the world, gently touching all the places that live in fear or anger or hatred or rage or contraction. And just lean into being the one that ripples expansive, empowered living. Let that become a practice. Let that become a dance. And it can change your life, and it can change our world. And so it is, and so we let it be. Thank you.